Hey everyone. Well, you can see I'm getting a little bit more junk mail. Not a lot, but some. So today I only got one of these, a flyer, and that's, I think, what we're going to work on. And this idea that we're doing today is inspired by Carol. And I've seen this before, and it's always on your to-do list. But Carol sent me some pictures that I'm going to try to incorporate into this video somewhere, maybe right here. And it looks like she has actually sewn her Franken paper, and I didn't try that. Here's two different pictures. This last one, I don't believe she sewed, but she inked around it in each, and I thought that looked cool. And through those pictures, I decided now's the time. I want to do that. I love it. I just thought they were beautiful. They turned out so great. So I made these. And I didn't do normal Franken paper where you sew. This is all, I drew all of this. None of this is real stitching except on this tab, and I already had that from previous scraps, so I sewed it on the top. But all of my Franken paper that I made and I'm going to make today is no sew. So I'm going to start with this flyer and some envelopes. On those, they were just envelopes that had not been tea dyed, and I've used 4 different patterns. As you can kind of see, there was 4 different patterns, and these are the insides of the envelope. This time I'm going to use tea dyed envelopes, which I did in the summer, and I've just chosen some different patterns. I thought this one was neat. It looks like wood, that I'm going to use on today's project. And I used 4 on the other one, and it made these 3 pieces, and I have another piece somewhere that I was going to make into a side tuck that I'm not sure where I laid it. Here it is. This one. I haven't decorated it yet, but I was going to make it a side pocket on a journal, in a journal. And I actually was going to make all of these pockets, and this wasn't a very big flower. This was probably half the size of this one. But then I realized, these are pretty hefty, and when you glue these to a page, you don't have a lot of room to slide things in. I don't mind it so much on the side tucks, but for a pocket, not that it's any difference, just a preference in my mind, I wanted it to be where I could fold the sides to make it more room. But anyway, so that's why I didn't turn them into pockets. Plus which, look, I got to use all these Tim Holtz pieces, and I never knew what to do with these portrait paper dolls, and I think that turned out really good. So we're going to make some of those, and I also used some of my rust dyed fabric. If you remember when I did some rust dyeing, I did this fabric, and I even said in the video that it was terrible, and I was going to have to tea dye over it or something, that I would never use it. And look, it looks so good on this because those little rusty, dirty spots look so neat. And then I just backed it, and I did a little stamp here, like maybe that was the day of the picture. This is some file folder that I had distress inked a long time ago, never stamped it or did anything with it. So I thought it made a perfect background for her. Same thing, backed it with some tea-dyed paper and did a little stamping on him. And just backed her with some tea-dyed paper that was printed on the other side, so only this side could really be used. Oh, and here's one of those beeswax pieces that she's standing on. And thank you to all the viewers that told me to iron it, and also to Print and Pixel for letting me know the main thing I forgot was to, after I dry it, to wipe it off with a cloth, and that really helps. It did really help. I love them now, but I do like doing them better with an iron. So I don't know if I finished telling you on these that have the cloth around them. So I just tore little strips and glued it in between the frame, or the front and the back piece. This one I actually used a die cut to cut that shape out. And this shape that cut out is what he's on. So, first step, I just took a letter opener and opened up the sides of them, of the envelopes. I may not use that one. For sure want to use this one. I love that basket weave looking pattern. And this wood. I like this wood. Isn't that pretty? And I might use this blue one just to give it a little bit of color. So I just took a ruler, and where it folds, I tore it there. Tried to. And then I left this because my intention is I will use that piece for a pocket at another time. Kind of messed this one up, but I'm still going to keep it. I left a little space just so if I wanted to create a hinge or something, I would have some room. So I've got my 4 colors here. Thought about just using 3, but this time I really like those patterns. So we're going to stick with 4. Get out my glue stick and some glue pages. I'm just going to, I inked around mine because I thought it would make it easier for me to know where to draw, and it kind of does, and I like the look of it. Certainly don't have to do this step. And I know that that rugged edge, I want to be on top. Like, I don't want anything laying on top of it. So, I'm going to find my next piece that's going to go over here. Probably just be this one. And then tear this one. And I kind of tear away from myself because I don't like I like the rugged edge, but I don't like the little thin piece. If you pull the other way, you know how it tears different. So I'm going to go ahead and ink around this. And not all of that edge will show, and that's okay. I don't do this on every piece just because this one had such pretty tears on it. Be real generous with your glue, your whatever kind of glue you're using, because we are not going to sew. We really want this to hold down. I like to run a card across it or a foam folder just to make sure it's got a really good seal. And that's it. Just keep tearing, and where I know that it's going to meet, I try to do it pretty jagged. On the piece that I'm adding, like this, see, I know that all of this is for sure going to show. Ooh, and this one had some wrinkles in it from the tea dyeing. That's going to be really pretty. You can use smaller pieces. I just kind of liked the bigger ones. I liked how it looked. It showed the patterns really well. Like I say, I'm just going to keep doing this until I fill out my page. So I'll fast forward through all of this business. After I glued it all down, you know, it kind of bubbles a little bit. So I put it under something heavy for, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. And I was saying before that I wanted to be able to hinge where I would have more room because it was thicker. But the problem with that is because it is thicker, it's 2 layers of paper. It's kind of hard to hinge. It's, you know, once I don't really like to bend it when it's this thick. So after I glued it all down, I only had the 4 pieces that I'd cut off originally. And then I had just these scraps left. Look, that's it. So 4 was about perfect for this size. And you know, I was thinking when I was gluing it down, I could have used some of these scraps that I did on the last video, because this was junk mail too, just to give it some more color and spots. I may end up doing that after I cut it, but for now I'm just going to stay with the envelopes. So what I have in mind for this, I wanted to make some little folders. So I just have my straight cutter here, not my deckled edge. And that's really not big enough. I'm going to have to get out the bigger cutter. I think I want to make them about, oh, let's see, 4 inches wide. They're not all 4 inches, but that will work. They're a little bit too deep for a file folder. Oh, shoot. I forgot to do the most important thing before I cut it. Goodness sakes, you guys get to see all the mistakes. Before I cut it, here comes the no-sew part. I just took my black markers and I took different sizes so that some stitches looked thicker than others. And I cannot believe, yeah, I can believe I did that. So I'm just going to try to line it back up. And I just wiggled around the edges. Or sometimes I did little slants. Kind of like a little zigzag stitch. Or, you know, something like a wiggle. However you wanted to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do where I messed up, and then I'll do all the rest of the pieces. Do this before you cut it. Will make it a lot easier for you. You know, there's stamps that look like stitches too. That would be a good way to do it. See, and that would have been a whole lot easier if I'd done that before I cut the papers. That's okay. We fixed it. Now, just trying to figure out about the right size for a folder. I like that. Then we'll make a little writing spot out of this one. We'll keep these 3 little tags as writing spots. Got my little envelope maker. I like to use that to punch out the... Actually, I think before I do that, I'm going to cover these with tea-dyed paper. And because this is a really slick flyer, I'm going to take my little sanding block here and rough it up a little bit because I'm not sewing and I want to make sure my glue stick holds it. Not doing a lot, just making sure I get the corners good. If you don't like the sanding, just use a heavier glue than what I'm using. And now I'll just cut around these. I think I'll just back 2 of them. I'm just planning on making the file folders today. Main thing was the Franken paper. No sew Franken paper. So I think everybody pretty much knows how to make a file folder, but I thought we could make a couple of them together. I think these are neat to put in a journal, and you can write, you know, have all of the inside to write on. I think I'll go ahead and round the edges. Something I thought was kind of neat on this Tim Holtz guy, I took, and I don't know if you could see it very good, but I took some of those green distress markers and painted his little collar green to match this stuff and the green on the fabric. Okay, so now let's punch our deal. I think I need to fold this differently, really. I don't think I have enough tab. Let's do it a little bit deeper. That. Now I'm just going to punch a little notch. Then just trim to the notch. You can get it very good. I'm always afraid of cutting my tabs, so I don't think I do a very good job of lining that up. And my paper's still wet. Probably should have waited. I can fix it. We'll fix it later. But then we have a little notch. I'll cover it with a cluster or something. And maybe I'll just, instead of using it for this one, I'll just cut this tab. That way I don't have to worry about tearing my paper again. There. That's better. So now we have 2 little file folder writing spots. Aren't they cute? Of course, we could always stamp some numbers, use some cheesecloth. Ooh, you know what? To cover that up, maybe I would use a piece of this rust-dyed fabric. Let me find a piece with a big dot of rusty on it. Of course, I don't know why fabric would be on a file folder, but you know, not much I do makes sense, so I'm going with it. There's a real nice piece of that rust water. You know, maybe it's on here because it's strengthening something. You know, used to, I can remember, I've always worked in an office that at the top they would have like a kind of like a fabric seam binding to make the tops of your file folder stronger. Let's do that. We'll just take it all the way across. But first I'm going to ink around it and probably stamp a number. That's crooked as all get out. That ought to drive Laura crazy. Really do like that. So I'm going to get my Fabri-Tac and go right across the top. I don't necessarily want the whole thing to be laying flat, just a little bit. And I think I'm just going to put stick glue under the bottom. That way, if it, you know, it'll hold it a little bit, but it doesn't have to be totally flat. Where it still looks grungy. We probably need some thread, don't we? I don't know why. None of this makes sense, I know, for a file folder, but I like it. So we're going to put a big bunch of thread here too. Do we need a few postage stamps or at least one? I mean, why wouldn't there be a postage stamp on a file folder? All right. You gotta admit, though, even if it doesn't fit, that looks kind of cool when you open it up and see that. Okay, let's do our other one. I know, this doesn't make sense. But I missed a little piece right there, so I'm going to put this on there. That's cute. Looks like a little patch. I think the only thing other thing I'm going to do, because, I mean, I really think this gives it such a great look. Maybe I'll put a little patch here, too. So I'm just going to finish them off with some random stamping on the front of both. Just some numbers and grids, things I think might be on front of a file folder. You really can't read them, but I think they're great. I love them. And I can't believe I've waited so long to try Franken Paper. Even though this is kind of a non-conventional method, I really like how it turned out. I hope you guys like this, and we'll try some of this with your junk mail. Make some writing spots, tuck spots, all the things. So fun, so cool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.